You know what, guys? At the end of the Morbius movie, and by the way, I'm not gonna get into a lot of spoilers here, even though I'm sure that everybody who probably wanted to watch this movie has already probably seen it by now. But I'm just gonna try to steer clear from spoilers. Anyway, at the end of the movie, there's an end credit scene, and Morbius, the good doctor Michael Morbius, is on a highway. He's driving a sports car. All right, he's seen driving a sports car, and he's heading over to meet somebody. And there's just something about that scene, about him behind the wheel of a sports car, that kind of just took me out of the movie. I mean, more than probably anything else in the movie probably did. It's just because everything that we've seen of how he was portrayed, how Morbius was portrayed prior to that, he's just like this kind of like a slacker kind of dude, that listens to grunge music. He's kind of like a shoegazer type, with sweaters and jeans and stuff like that. And it doesn't really fit the profile of somebody that you would suddenly see, behind the wheel of a cool, like import sports car and maybe a muscle car, all right? But then, it just occurred to me that, this guy is, at the end of the day, he's still a doctor, all right? And yeah, he's got cash to burn, probably, right? And yeah, probably, why not? Why not have him behind the wheel of an expensive sports car, right? Okay, guys, Ken here from the Retro Toy Escapades channel in Malaysia. This is a portion of the channel that I want to devote to just sharing my thoughts on movies that I've seen, and mostly it's pop culture related movies. I kind of want to bring this stuff over to the other channel that I'm working on, but for now, I think a lot of this stuff appeals to the same audience, and I kind of think that maybe you guys might be interested in hearing it. So I just want to share my review and my thoughts on Morbius, the movie that just came out. I watch a lot of this Marvel stuff, all right? I watch a lot of comic book movies, comic book content, cartoons, TV shows, because I grew up on comic books, and that's just one of those things. So when there's a major comic book film out there, I do make it a point to check it out. Morbius is one of those movies that I really wanted to see succeed, right? Because I kind of like this world that these characters exist in, and it just hails from a really nostalgic point in time, the 90s and the 90s comics that were there during that time. Obviously, Morbius was created way back before that, but he really came into the prominence during the 90s boom in like these really dark characters that Marvel was putting out. Night Stalkers, during a time where books like Ghost Rider was like selling. All right, Ghost Rider was a hot selling book during that time. Right? They had stuff like Ghost Rider, they had Blade, they had Blaze. They had like this really dark team of supernatural like vigilantes that were out to just sort of like defend everything that's good. It's like they were anti-heroes. You couldn't really expect them to always do the right thing, but most of the time they tried. And I think the peak of it came during a major event like Maximum Carnage, which ran throughout all the Spider-Man books in 1993. I collected the hell out of that miniseries. It was something like 13 issues. You had all these anti-heroes. You had Morbius, you had Venom, you had Spider-Man, you had Cloak and Dagger, you had the Black Cat, a whole bunch of people. They were all grouping together to stop Carnage's assault on New York City. And the story was pretty pretty lame. I mean, didn't have much of a plot. It was just wall-to-wall action, but it was fun, right? I loved it because it was fun. And something like seeing these characters now coming to the big screen. It started with Venom. I loved that first Venom movie, actually. I really enjoyed it. I know people hated it. I think people hated it at first, and then they grew to like it. The fact is, the movie was a huge hit. When it came to the second movie, I went in really wanting to like it because it was going to be introducing Carnage. But the execution of it was pretty bad. Okay, the execution of it was pretty bad. I got to say that there were parts of it that I enjoyed. It was a commercial success. I'm happy for it because I want the franchise to succeed, but it was a weaker movie compared to the first one. Now, when we get to something like Morbius, I really did want this movie to succeed. And everything that we saw from the trailers hinted at something that was a very slick, stylish, kind of like a supernatural action adventure, maybe in the vein of something like Underworld, or anything else that we saw from probably like the early 2000s, vampire action horror films. It had that kind of vibe to it, and I really wanted it to work. And as it turns out, this movie was pretty bad. Okay, and nobody is more sadder to find that out than me. I went to the movie fully aware of all the reviews that were coming out, the fact that critics and it seems a lot of fans were also sort of like taking it apart on social media, and I just kind of thought to myself that, hey, look, you know what, maybe there's something in there that I might enjoy. All right, that maybe I would feel that maybe it's not too bad, because I have been known to enjoy bad movies. As it turns out, the movie overall, uh, it's not the worst thing, but it's pretty badly executed, and I would say it has some of the probably the worst editing I've seen in a major superhero film. All right, a major studio produced superhero film, maybe on par with the Fantastic Four movie, the one that came out, like the last one that came out. All right, that one had pretty bad editing as well. I think I started to feel like there was a problem with the movie when I saw the film's poster. The poster looks really tacky. Anything that's got like 100 floating heads is bound to come across as pretty tacky. All right, and these days it seems like, I mean, it seems to be a superhero thing. I don't know if it's a superhero thing or if it's a Marvel movie thing, but usually you get like just 100 floating disembodied heads. All right, and there's no reason for these actors to all be in the film poster. All right, the supporting cast, and many of them are just forgettable. Many of them are playing parts that honestly do not really impact the movie enough to actually warrant a slot on the film's poster. You really only need the main guy, maybe the villain, and maybe the lead heroine, and that's it. Okay, that's about it. All right, you could have like other stuff. All right, like freaking vampire bats and stuff like flying around, Morbius's character, but you don't need all these floating heads. Well, what are the floating heads here? Tyrese. I was honestly excited that he was actually in the movie. Tyrese has never really been known as a leading man, but he's always been regarded as a fantastic supporting actor, especially when it comes to delivering the humor, lightening the tension. He's fantastic for the last 15 years in stuff like Transformers, the Fast and Furious movies. In this movie, he's completely wasted. All right? I felt that he just got screwed over. By the end of it, you're kind of wondering, was Tyrese even in the movie? He's like the lead detective investigating a series of murders that Morbius could be connected to. He's hardly in the freaking movie at all. And by the end of it, he pops up. Obviously, there's not really much space for the human actors to do anything when you've got monsters fighting it out. But still, they could have given him a much better role to work with. Now, Jared Leto as Morbius in the film, honestly, I think that he did a pretty okay job. All right, if he was supposed to be the live action manifestation of Morbius from the comic book page, I think he did okay, all right, for what was actually available to him. But he's let down, honestly, by everything else with the movie. Everything else with the movie is just, let's just wonder, do people watch this stuff, before it's actually put out there? Do they actually feel that, hey, we could have a problem with this, all right? Because everything from the execution of the plot, the way the story flows, the action sequences were just weak. There was nothing in here to really suggest a big blockbuster comic book film experience. And I don't really think that the fault lies with Jared Leto's performance. First of all, like I said, he did all right. It's just that he's not really given anything cool to do. I mean, he's not really given anything that really makes his character stand out, makes his character really, stand out to you as the viewer, all right, to make you really identify with him enough for you to care about anything that's going on. There's the part in the movie that's also in the trailer where he's taking down a bunch of bad guys, and one of them goes like, "What are you?" or like, "Who are you?" and he just goes, "I am Venom." And you know what? It was supposed to be a light-hearted moment, all right, to break the tension. Except that I was watching it, the hall that I was in, nobody laughed, all right? Nobody laughed, okay? Not a single person broke out, not even to a chuckle. I don't know if it's because they were used to it from the trailer. Maybe they laughed when they saw it in the trailer. When it came out in the movie, they were like expecting it. But still, you know how it is when when you watch something in the trailer. If it's funny, if you see it again, you laugh again. But that didn't happen here. So I kind of felt that the beats were kind of off here. All right. The other thing is that the villain in this movie, I felt was it kind of. All right, I may be going into a little bit of spoiler territory here, but like I said, you guys probably have already watched the movie. You just want to hear what I have to say about it. But the villain in the movie honestly reminded me of Crispin Glover, the dad, Michael J. Fox's dad from Back to the Future. You know who I'm talking about, all right? Except that they just made him bad, all right? And the thing about this guy's character is just that he's the main bad guy, but he's got a really bad dress sense. All right, I would just wish that they could have given him some better attire. All right, he's doing all this really evil shit, but he's dressed up like a guy in 50s, 1950s attire. I just felt it didn't quite gel. All right, it didn't. There's just something that they could have just worked on to just make these characters just stand out a little bit more. The other thing is just that the villain is just a duplicate of Morbius. All right, he's just a duplicate of Morbius, but just a worse version, just an evil version. And I'm kind of tired of seeing these kind of characters turn up in movies where they're just mirror reflections of the hero. It's like you're watching Venom. Okay, look, fair enough. Carnage is a huge character, all right? But Carnage, in essence, is just a mirror reflection in a way of what Venom is. And Venom was fighting a similar kind of character in the first movie as well. It was Riot, which is also some kind of like a symbiote villain. And I just feel that these movies where you have characters who are just mirror reflections of the hero, they just tend to be a little bit more boring. That's why stuff like Batman is always regarded as interesting. People have talked about this kind of stuff before. It's like when you have a villain like the Joker, who's like the total opposite of what Batman is. All right, then it becomes interesting. It's like, how does this hero handle this villain? Okay, how does he take him down? The effects in this movie were just really bad. I mean, you're looking at freaking CGI, all right? I mean, you accept that CGI is going to be a big part of the movie, but you just don't want it to be so freaking obvious. And I'm not really sure what is it about, these productions, okay? Because when it comes to the Spider-Man movies, whatever you're seeing there on screen looks like it's $500 million worth, all right, of effects. But when it comes to productions like these, like even the Venom movies, honestly, I couldn't stand the effects in them. And it's like it's carried over to a production like Morbius, and what you're seeing on screen is like maybe $30 million worth of effects, okay, compared to what you get with a Spider-Man production. And I just don't get how that works. Okay, yeah, maybe there is a, element there to the budgets that are involved there, right? Special effects teams and things like that. But if it's from the same studio, can't you tap into the same special effects teams? Can't you tap into the same special effects forces, all right, to give us something that we've never seen before in terms of how Morbius is moving and how he's attacking people, all right? How the action scenes are being choreographed and framed. There was nothing here that made me go like, how did they do that? Right? And when you think back about how something like Blade, okay, Blade was like the first Blade with Wesley Snipes. That was revolutionary. They had obviously some setbacks in terms of what they could do with special effects at that time. But the way that they choreographed and framed the film is like something that when they presented it for the first time, there was stuff in there that you've not seen before. All right, there was stuff in there that I guarantee you had not seen before up to that point. And Blade was like 25 years ago next year. Next year, it's going to be 25 years. All right. And how come, okay, we can't find a way to make things better, all right? In almost a quarter of a century later. And action movies actually have this cliche in them where you always have a team of like armed mercenaries or something like action horror movies. Okay, you'll have a team of like armed mercenaries that are being stalked by something. Okay, something stalking them, and then it's like while they're trying to figure out where this thing is, it's like the team is getting picked off one by one, and there'll always be a scene. All right, there'll always be a scene of somebody being dragged up. Okay, dragged up, okay, into the ceiling or something like that. And then there'll always be a scene of somebody probably being dragged across the floor, all right, okay? And you get the same thing here in Morbius, all right? Morbius has these same scenes, all right, okay? And I just feel that these action sequences are just recycled beats. The ending finale battle between the hero and the villain felt really recycled. It just felt like everything that I just saw a couple of months back with the Venom 2 finale, all right, when Venom was fighting with Carnage, it felt like the same thing, okay? Although technically, if I were to think about it, Morbius was actually supposed to come out like 2 years ago, or it was just delayed until this point, all right, in April of 2022, but it was actually supposed to come out in 2020. So technically, we're watching something that's, in a way 2 years late, but it still feels a lot like everything that we've seen before. Anyway, guys, that's my look and my thoughts on the Morbius movie. Again, like I said, I really wanted this thing to succeed. My only hope now is that it actually just makes some money at the box office, because I don't want comic book movies to fail, right? No matter what they are, no matter how disappointed I am, I don't want comic book movies to fail. I wanted to at least make some money so that, we can probably get better productions, all right? Better productions, and there are good stories to be told with these characters, with the world of these characters, the Night Stalkers, right? There are good stories to be told. And I hope that we'll get to a point that we'll get a better production somewhere out there. Let me know what you thought of the movie if you guys have seen it. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for tuning in as always, and I'll catch you guys again real soon with more content. Take care out there.